Hey y'all. So usually I do a short video, but this one I think calls for me to take a little more time to explain. And so the other day I was in the shower and I was just thinking about life and thinking about different situations that had happened in my life, different people that had come through my life who were really great people, but the relationships didn't last, right? And just thinking about this season that I'm in right now and understanding that during this season you will have to grieve. Ziglag is about not just about pursuing and overtaking and recovering all, but it's also about losing some things, right? And in those seasons where you have to, where loss is necessary, sometimes it's very painful and you don't know how to deal with that type of grief, right? And so I thought about my grandmother, and I thought about during the time that she was sick and she was dying. I was on a 40-day fast, and during that time, God was preparing me for what was to come, right? If you remember in the story of David, if you go back before Ziklag, you remember that he had done some things that had caused him to be in a position of grief. He had slept with someone's wife, he killed a man, and now they had produced a child, and the child was very sick. And so during the time that the child was sick, David was, grieving, he was hurting, and the people were afraid to tell him when the thing had died, when the child had died, right? And so when they went to him afraid to tell him that what he had been praying for, what he loved so much, had died, David had a surprise reaction for them. He got up, cleaned himself up, took a shave, and he ate something, right? And so that was showing that, he had to understand during that time of grief that life goes on. And when something is dead, you don't hold on to it. You don't have this unhealthy relationship with the spirit of grief. You just let it go. And so during this Ziglag season, I want you to know that there will be a time where it's necessary to let go of things that you love, people that you love, ideas that you have grown accustomed to that you felt like was going to really work out the way you wanted it to work out, and it died, right? Because death is a part of life, right? It just is. And you have to learn how to process grief. When my grandmother died, during the time that she was sick, I was grieving. And I learned that that's a pattern for me, that I grieve while I'm in a situation that's dying. And I believe that God was giving us that example of David because that's the way it should be done. Now, of course, there are situations that are traumatic that happen without us knowing. But in a situation where you know, and we know when a relationship is dying, we know when a person is dying physically, and we know when there's a spiritual death that's happening, right? And so we have to be able to grieve it while we're in it, right? We have to be able to grieve it while we're in it so that we won't hold on to something that is dead. In this Ziglag season, I want you to have a healthy relationship with grief. Yes, you have to grieve. You have to mourn those things that are dying or are dead. But when it's all over and when the death happens, you have to be able to move on with your life. You have to be able to let go of the idea of what could have been and just move forward to what God has blessed you to accomplish and what God has blessed you to encounter. I love you guys, and I hope that, this message today about grief will give you somewhat of a peace about letting go. I love you, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.